befriending the British. A lot of Americans don't realize this, but it actually is possible. It just is a little bit different than how you befriend Americans. As an American who's gone on 3 tours across the UK now, I am basically an expert on this topic. I feel like most friendships from people from the same countries kind of go like this. You introduce yourself, you start talking, you build the bond a little bit more, and then you become friends. With the Brits, it's a little bit different. There's an extra step. So you get introduced, you start talking, and then boom, bickering. Bickering is a very, very important step. There is like over 200 years of just beef there that needs to be addressed at some point. There are 3 main topics you gotta bicker about with every Brit you meet. First of all, imperial system versus metric. They do actually use imperial to measure like feet, miles, stuff like that, but then they also have stone, and they want to call us weird for having stuff. I don't know. Brits, I need you to like scroll past this right now. I need to talk to some of my fellow Americans. Okay. Now, I know some of you Americans don't actually like imperial system, and that's fine. But the good thing is, the point of this is not to change anybody's mind or to come to some mutual understanding. The point is to bicker. So as long as you're bickering, you're golden. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it either. I think that metric just makes a lot more sense. But like, when I'm in the UK and people bring this up, I'm like, screw you, I use imperial system, get out of here. What are you talking about? The American in me really comes out when it's under fire. Example, we were talking to our bus driver about Fahrenheit versus Celsius, and he brings up the argument of, oh, Celsius is based off of water. It makes sense because water freezes at this temperature and it boils at this temperature. And I'm like, you're not water. The air outside is not gonna like evaporate you or freeze you, so who cares? Is that a solid argument? No, absolutely not. But it worked because we got to bicker, and that was fun. This is what being an American is about. If you want to really screw with the Brits, bring up stone. Ask a Brit to define stone. They cannot do it. Why are we even arguing when stone exists? Why do you think that it's a valid unit of measurement? I was trying not to be super biased in this video, but I realized that I'm American. I can't do that. Number 2, slang. Chips versus crisp versus fries versus biscuits versus cookies. Like, all of it is stupid, okay? At least with imperial versus metric, like, there's some argument to be made about, like, one being right and one being wrong. With this, it's all just stupid. I felt very bad for our sound guy and our bus driver because they both lived on the bus with us, which meant that they could never drop the act. They had to use the silly British accent the entire time we were there. They never had a moment off. But at the same time, anytime our bus driver wanted to make fun of me for being American and didn't have anything left to use, he would just go, sidewalk, because apparently it's a path over there. Aluminum versus aluminium. If you really want to screw with people, bring this up because there's such a debate about the phonetics of it. But in British English, aluminium is spelled aluminium, and American English, aluminum is spelled aluminum. They are both phonetically correct in the way that they're written. But my argument for this is, if you want a phonetically consistent language, speak German or something. Do not come at me with phonetic arguments and speak English. Are you kidding me? This is English. Brits, this is your fault because you are the original England, I will say. Third big debate, tea. Oh my gosh, freaking tea. You don't understand how much the British culture revolves around tea. I thought that that was just an American stereotype. I thought, don't believe everything Hollywood tells you. No, the Brits are serious about their tea. They know the type of tea, they know how to brew the tea. They have the strats of like, do you take the tea bag out before you add the milk or after, or like blah, 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 whatever. Like, I remember when we did our tour in 2023, I was in a room with about 15 Brits, and me and Alex were the only 2 Americans in the room. We were waiting on a party that started at like midnight, and I look at the clock and it's about 11. And so around that time that I looked at the clock, I literally just mentioned tea. I did not get an opinion on it. I did not say anything about making it. I literally just said the word tea as an American, and that sparked a 30-minute long bickering basically amongst the Brits, with me and Alex just passively observing this about like, oh, Americans, they use microwaves to heat their tea, they don't drink tea properly, and like Alex and I weren't even involved in this. I look back at the clock and it's 11:30. 30 minutes had passed on this topic. I did not know it was possible to talk about tea for 30 minutes. Then the most recent tour that we did in March, oh my gosh, I finally understood the hype around tea. What you have to understand about Britain is that it is very cold and it is almost always overcast until you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, it's cold outside. I don't want to get out of my bed. And then you remember, wait, tea exists. I can just heat myself back up. And so you get out of bed and you make your tea, and then you're all warm inside. You're like, oh, this is great. And then you step outside and you're immediately cold again. Fantastic experience. But like, yeah, I get the hype now. We were dependent on that kettle. Again, this is on a tour bus. We had a kettle on the tour bus. That is just not a thing in the United States. You go to hotel rooms in Britain, tea kettles, tea, all of it. Tea kettles just spawn in every room that exists in Britain. So like when you talk to a Brit about having a room that does not have a tea kettle, like they cannot comprehend that. They're just like, how do you make tea if you haven't got a kettle? And I'm like, you know, you could use the microwave, but I understand that you guys hate that. So this might be a very American thing to believe, but you don't actually need tea to survive. And then that triggers a bunch of accusations of heresy and stuff. So I'm actually pretty on board with it. The milk in the tea is banger. If you're an American, I highly recommend you try that. It's actually just really good. We also did get a tea kettle because, man, those things like heat up the water like really, really fast. It's awesome. Getting to be part of that culture also helps contextualize the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party and all that kind of stuff, because it's like, yeah, those were Brits. They took their tea really seriously. And I felt like I was about to get thrown in the harbor for saying crap about tea or using a microwave sometimes. Getting to travel abroad has been like such a huge blessing, and being part of this band. It's been amazing to meet all of like the road crew, artists, and just fans over there and see where American culture came from. Like that's really, really cool. With Independence Day hopefully being around the time that this video releases, I felt like it was a good time to kind of bring this up because it's a really fun topic. I've had a lot of fun talking to my American friends about it. One of the most American patriotic looking things I've ever seen was actually in the London Heathrow airport. They have all this writing when you're going to the trolleys that's just like, welcome to Britain, like that kind of stuff, but it's all done in this red, white, and blue font, and it looks just like stuff you would see for 4th of July. I'm like, oh yeah, we just stole your guys' flag colors. Like, happy Independence Day to all of our American fans, and happy 4th of July to all of our British fans. You guys aren't really celebrating anything today, but it is still July 4th, so have a good day.